busy time for you at the moment. There's a couple of solo albums coming out as well, being re-released. They're re-released, aren't they?
No, I've only ever had one official release, which was called Alive and Well.
Right.
And I've got I Spy is out as well now.
Yeah.
It went out last Friday. And there's another one called Lamb and Lizard, which was actually Between You, Me and the Gatepost, all meant to go up together, but there was just a technical issue with a couple of the tracks. So they're going to go up, I hope, next week now.
Right.
So then I will have put up 64 songs.
I was going to ask, there's a lot of tracks to kind of come out or coming out. What's been the kind of process in getting it all together, and what was the thought behind doing it, and why now?
Well, I've had the songs. I mean, I stopped sort of doing a lot back in 2017. So I Spy was sort of written and recorded over sort of 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Alive and Well was done from the late 90s into the early 2000s. And Lamb and Lizard, which has got 44 songs, was literally started 1986 up to about 97, 98.
No,
so I signed a publishing deal with Chrysalis at about 96. And I've just had so many things, sort of ups and downs, with like, signed my publishing deal, and my manager dropped me and every artist. So then my record deal didn't go through. Then I was stuck in a contract. Now I've had a lot of just stuff, which complicates things. And of course, because you can put things up yourself now, back in the day, everyone was trying to, you had to go through an A&R man and all of that, the old school. And they just have dustbin liners full of cassettes and CDs that they've never listened to. So I've had so many things kind of go pear-shaped in the process of trying to get these out. But now, and I sort of just stopped because I was ill about 5 years ago. I just sort of just forgot about it all. And I just thought it was pointless them not being up there, because now I can get them up there through Universal and through Right Track and Universal, and they were interested in me doing it a few years ago, and I just wasn't quite ready for it, just because I was still ill. And so it's sort of happened now because I've got a bit of time to make it happen, really.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, I mean, you talked about going back to 1986. That was when I bought my first record. It was back in 1986. So yeah, I remember queuing up outside. Could have been our price.
Woolies.
No, it was our price, or Woolies, or it was one of them. I can't remember, but 1986. I mean, like you said, the industry's changed a lot over 40 years.
Oh, amazingly so. I think it's got better for the industry, but I don't think it's better for the artist necessarily,
I mean, but touching on what you said, I mean, you've got the chance to put them out there now and get people to listen to them. That must be a massive bonus, given what you've gone through to kind of get to this point. It must be a great feeling to be able to get that music out there.
Yeah, because I mean, I can't sort of put into time and money the costs and emotional input over the decades to songs that sort of became my therapy in a way.
Right.
Because all I ever wanted to do was do my own music, and I was just prevented from it for so long. And then when you're out the loop, then it's hard to get picked up. Because when I left the band, I had a couple of 2 or 3 major labels interested in me for solo, but I was prevented from signing anything. So it's just been like a bit of a labor of love. But and it's just obviously me in different, with a 20-year-old head and then a 30-year-old head.
I was going to ask, I mean, you've talked about going from leaving the group to going to be a solo artist. I mean, given you obviously were 19, 20 back then, I mean, what was that like for you? What making that move? I mean, like you said, the difficulties with it.
Yeah, there was. I think the coach crash was the turning point, because there was a lot of internal problems in the band at that stage.
Right.
We had a terrible deal. So we were earning very little, although we were being painted as multimillionaires. I mean, nothing could have been further from the truth.
Wow. Okay.
But yeah, it was awful. We were selling millions of records, making very little. and then we all nearly die in a coach crash.
Yeah.
And I'd been unhappy for about a year.
Right.
And instead of kind of things getting better when you're all nearly dead,
Yeah.
it actually went the other way, and people were sort of arguing, and I just felt like I was being ambushed a bit. And I just sort of, you know, when you're injured, I was hit on this side of my head, so I was paralyzed down one side.
Wow. Okay.
And I was really quite badly ill. I mean, obviously not as bad as Mike, because Mike had a huge blood clot.
Yeah.
It's just you just think this is ridiculous. You know, this is not not almost human to be sort of arguing at a time when we're all like in this state. But I think it was the pressure and the stress of that amount of work over those few years, because we were crazy busy and in and out of Europe a lot. So I look back on it now, and I think if I hadn't been so unwell, I probably would have stayed in the band. But I mean, the friction in the band, which is evident because we can't use the name Bucks Fizz, was always there from sort of fairly early on.
I didn't know
there was always two camps.
Yeah.
So it was Mike and Cheryl's camp and Bobby's camp, and I would float between the two. You know, it's just sort of, I was a lot younger than them, but I was the floating vote. So it was just something. My love was being on stage, loved the studio, loved the work, didn't really know how to cope with the personal stuff, you know, the politics, I suppose, in the band at that age. I was a teenager. So yeah, I left the band, and then I had a lot of trouble with for legal reasons for leaving the band, and then all the sort of people that were interested in me as a solo artist just sort of ran off. You know, they didn't want to get involved. Wow. Which is fair enough. So it just got a bit nasty, went on a long time, and I just kind of got through it all by writing songs.
I was going to ask, you've kind of answered my next question, but I'll ask it anyway. I mean, most people would have got to that point and thought, you know, sod this, I'm done, I'm out of here, I'm done with the industry, I'm done with music. But you've carried on going. Yeah. You've had a successful career. I mean, what kept you going?
I love it. I love music. I love performing. You know, when we gig with the band now, with the Fizz, you know, we do the A2 stuff, the festivals, some corporate stuff. I love the fact that people still love the music. Yeah. It's crazy, but things like Land of Make Believe and Making Your Mind Up still make people really happy. And it's just it's fun. It's just being able to entertain people, make them go away having had a great night. It's just a great thing. But I love music, and I love writing music.
Yeah.
I love lyrics. I love how music can change your mood. So it's just I just love it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it. I'd have been doing something very different, I suppose.
Yeah. All right. Then, what would that have been if you hadn't have been doing it? What could you see yourself doing?
Well, I went through a period where I'd left the music industry in terms of performing or trying to follow anything, but I actually kept writing, even if it was just lyrics.
Yeah.
So it's like I could never really fully leave that kind of an outpouring, I suppose. And I trained as a financial advisor, and I lasted about a month. I hated it, you know.
Yeah, I can understand. I can appreciate that. I mean, we've talked about the music industry and how it's changed over the years. It's a very cutthroat industry. And like you said, you've kept in it. You've kept your foot in it. What have you learned during that time?
Well, I mean, God, how long have you got? I mean, you've got to love what you do.
Yeah.
You've got to have something to say, which obviously is now apparent in my songs. You've got to love entertaining people, but it's not for the faint-hearted. And I guess I had the benefit of my parents were in show business, and although they were in variety and a very, very different side to it, so in some respects they couldn't help me at all when things went bad for me. I had the upbringing of looking at it as a job.
Yeah.
You know, some people look at it with a sort of glamorous. It's not glamorous at all. It's hard work. But it's just what I do. Like it was in my genes, I think, you know.
Yeah, I suppose if you've come from an entertainment kind of family, I suppose it's always going to be, regardless of whether it's
Well,
music,
they're all
the dance.
performers, and my brother was in it as well. My brother did Eurovision a couple of times. He was in the West End in lots of musicals. He was in movies as a kid. My dad was a comic. My mum was kind of his sidekick comic, but she also was a singer and dancer. So my childhood was watching them at the side of the stage. It's just all I know, really, entertaining.
Yeah. It's a great industry to be in. I mean, like you said, music, it can change moods, it can kind of define moments. It kind of,
Yeah,
I've got pictures on my wall of different bands I've photographed, and I've looked at it, and it's like a soundtrack of different years of my life. It's, I mean,
absolutely, yeah.
you know, I mean,
Yeah, it's powerful stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one thing you mentioned earlier was your illness, and I think I'd read that you said your outlook on life changed after that, and your career.
Yeah.
What changed? What changed for you?
Well, having cancer is pretty tough, and
Yeah.
especially tongue cancer as a singer.
Yeah.
So all I wanted to do to get better, so I could go back on stage.
Yeah.
You know, I couldn't do a 2 or 3 hour solo concert anymore. I can do a 1 hour with the band.
Yeah.
So it was like the idea of kind of doing solo stuff, probably even with like a party band, which is like what I used to do.
Right.
I couldn't do that anymore just because of the physicality. It gets very painful and tight. So that, but you know, just I know it just when you're really ill and you could die, it just changes you, like it did with the coach crash. You know, we all nearly died in that. That had a profound effect. It just does. It's sort of like you don't sweat the small stuff. You know, it's like everything just has a different perspective. And I think even more so, I just want to do what makes me happy.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, I spoke to somebody the other week, a singer, quite a successful singer who had throat cancer, and quite recently, a couple of years ago, he got through it. What got you through it?
Well, my daughter.
Right.
My daughter, she was only 15. She was just doing a mock GCSEs. So my daughter and my husband, obviously, my family, and wanted to get back.
Yeah.
It's funny because there's a song on the album we did with Mike Stock, which was the Smoke and Mirrors album. There's a song called Here to Eternity. And I started recording that when I got the diagnosis. They were phoning me at the hospital. At the hospital were phoning me at the studio.
Wow.
And then I was trying to sing this really quite an emotional lyric.
Yeah.
Knowing I was going to have to go in and have half my tongue removed. And I went when I was in hospital, I had a little demo of it, just literally the chords, and I would listen to it because I couldn't talk for 2 weeks as I had it tracheotomy, and I just listened to it and I was like, I'm going to go back and put that vocal on.
Yeah. So
that was in the July, and I redid the vocal I think in January or February, about 5-6 months later, which is what's on the record now.
Right. Okay.
So it was just like no, I'm going to go back and finish that because it was a good song. I sometimes find it quite hard to sing, just emotionally.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of your career, I mean, we've talked about the difficult journey with the bus crash, the illness. There must have been some incredible moments as well over that time. I mean, if you had to pick any out, I mean, what would you say are the moments that really kind of make you happy or make you look back?
Well, winning Eurovision is an extraordinary thing.
Yeah.
And also the package that goes with it, which is traveling all over Europe. You know, nice hotels, first class, limousines. And although we made very little money out of that whole thing, you know, as a 19, 20-year-old, it was a wonderful experience. Once, you know, a million to one experience. So seeing Europe, traveling the world, we did a festival in Chile, which was about 35,000 people, and it was just, and all the seating is in like the rock face. It's just beautiful.
Wow.
And sorry, that's your cat, and I think it's my cat.
There's 3 of them, so.
um highlighted, certain gigs that we did. The Chile one was great. Eurovision was great. Just highlighting moments on tour where you went, that gig went perfect. You're always looking for the perfect gig. That was faultless. And there was only a few, maybe a handful in all those decades that you go, that was actually perfect. But actually last year, appearing at Eurovision again,
I was going
and
to ask
just
you
actually
about
being
that.
treated like royalty was amazing. We just walked into the auditorium and everyone started singing "Making Your Mind Up" and clapping us.
Yeah.
That was a wonderful moment. That was lovely. Because obviously it's great that we had that happened, because Eurovision's been it's been such a no-no for so many years, 25 years of like nothing, and then thank goodness for Sam Ryder.
Yeah, but if you ask people about Eurovision and Britain, that whole thing, that your set was iconic. It's one of those iconic moments. I mean, did it feel iconic at the time, or did it feel like this is quite
not
special?
at the time, but it's really built momentum.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing how many people know it. And and I mean, even when I was literally about to give birth, I had the nurses doing the skirt rip in front of me, and I'm having contractions.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It's all very fun.
That is incredible, that. But it is, I mean, it's one of those moments that whenever there's these highlights of British pop or anything, it's always on there. I mean, it's one of those just iconic musical moments. I mean, does it? It must be frustrating then, given how iconic those moments are and the impact it's had on people, the kind of the way it ended, it's kind of back in there. Does that frustrate you that it didn't? It kind of went that way.
Well, it's sad. It's sad. Yeah. I mean, I do think if the coach crash hadn't happened, things would have been different. Obviously, Mike was severely injured. He was very unwell for many years. The whole situation with Bobby taking the name when I went back was just a real shame. It is a real shame. But it's rock and roll. It's just the way the
it absolutely is. Yeah. I mean, looking forward then, obviously the solo albums are coming out over a period of time. I mean, what in terms of your solo career, what can we expect from you?
Well, gigs, but I can't do like the only gig I did of all the stuff is up on YouTube.
Right.
And if I'm completely honest, I did it in 2017, and I knew I was getting ill, but I was like denying it to myself. And I did wonder if it was the only solo concert of all the stuff I do.
Yeah.
So I'm limited. I am limited. But I can always do, like, for instance, we're doing an event as an anniversary event on the 5th of April, which is the anniversary of winning Eurovision. And we have like a small fan get together, and I'll do a couple of solo things in there. Yeah. Sometimes I do an event here at home, which is like a private, close fan event, and I'll do my stuff there. Yeah. At the moment, I'm not really thinking that far ahead. I'm just thinking I want to get the stuff out to see what the response is, which just to see what goes. It's a bit of an experiment, really.
Yeah. Okay. Just kind of before we finish, we do a kind of just for fun question, which is a bit off the wall, a bit different. If people got right, I'll try this one. If people got paid for the bad behaviour and the bad habits, which of your bad habits would make you a fortune?
Oh, I don't think I can repeat that. Bad habits would make me a fortune. I'm pretty untidy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty untidy. I have times where I'm like not OCD, but like I'll clean and tidy, and yet I always look around and I'm messy. Yeah. But my whole family are.
Right.
So I'm always surrounded by mess. It's messy to me. Might not be to everybody, but yeah, I'm not that's one of the things that I, you know, when I used to be a bit more paranoid about tidiness, when you're ill, you just go, oh, sod it, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I'm pretty. I'm not. It's not dirty. It's just untidy.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm the same. Okay. Just to finish, then, I think it's been really nice talking to you, and I'm hoping we can catch up face to face and talk properly, rather than over
Yeah.
Zoom. But for fans that have kind of stuck with you throughout, right from the start through your solo career, have you got any message for them?
Well, just to thank them. They have been remarkable. I mean, they turn up to all sorts of things, and they do lots of investigations into everything about you. You know, it's
Yep.
amazing what they find out and what they know, like a web, like a network.
Yeah, yeah.
And they all talk to one another. Just so amazingly blown away by their support, and thankful, really, because without them, you know, it's we wouldn't be doing what we're doing. We have got a core of amazing fans.
Yeah.
We're doing this gig at the Indigo, which is
Right.
called Party Like It's 1981. So it's like our all hits and a sort of 80s section as well.
Okay.
So that's the only kind of big gig we've got in London.
Right.
Everything else is all over the place. We do Butlins 80s Weekenders, and we've got lots of things, inquiries coming in. So
Okay.
most of it goes up on our website.
Okay.
It's not actually updated that regularly, but yeah, most of the public stuff is up there.
Brilliant. Perfect. Well, I think we can wrap up there. It's been great talking to you. I mean, like I said, I bought my first record in 1986, so I remember Bucks Fizz, and back in the day, I remember it all. And I was at Eurovision as well in Liverpool last year, so I remember your appearance there as well.
Oh,
So,
it was just lovely. It was fabulous, and just so good to have for people to be positive about Eurovision again, because it kind of really makes me sad that people just go, oh, Eurovision.
well,
you
I
know,
was never.
It's just quite sad.
It was never anything I was interested in till I was there, and I spent a week at the event, and it gave me a different perspective on it.
Yeah.
So
no, it is. It's how so many people treasure it. You know, that
yeah.
from all over Europe, that it's something fabulous for them, and so you go along with the wave.
Yeah.